right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dental Hygiene Basics podcast. My name is Dana. I'm your host. Very excited to have our guest, Melanie Boyd, with us today from new Wave Perio. We're going to start, Melanie, with the question I usually just ask. Tell me your RDH origin story. How did you get to this point?
Wow. Okay. So let's go back to the eighth grade when I decided I knew I was going to be in dental. 100%. So it was when I was in the basement of my home in Canada and I was making pretend retainers out of little garbage ties. I would take off the paper part and then I would take one of those glue guns and I would make sort of the palette and I would mold it to my mouth. And then next thing you knew, I was doing like underground ortho on Brussels Street in eighth grade. And at that point, I was like, I knew I wanted to be in dentistry. And then I did everything to sort of do dental. So I did my first degree, which was cell and molecular biology degree. I went to school in Alabama. I played soccer there and did that. And, it seemed like a failure because I didn't get in my first year. And then it turned into something so great. And I couldn't imagine being a dentist now that I'm a hygienist, doing what I'm doing. Yeah, so gosh, 14 years later, I'm still doing this and I will never forget when I graduated because my son was born 5 days before my board exams. Yeah, 14 years.
Oh my God.
So that's sort of
Okay.
my story.
Yeah,
Short
amazing. I
version.
love it. Yeah, yeah. I love that you were doing the underground ortho. I
Yeah.
remember when I was in, I don't know, maybe middle school, high school, we would put like gum wrappers on our teeth. So it looked like we had a grill. So I'm like, maybe that was the earliest sign I was gonna go into dental.
Right?
Like I loved it. I was like, I look so cool. Yeah. So
That's
anyways,
hysterical.
that's awesome. Okay, so then I think what's so interesting, you and I kind of have parallel stories. We both went, we got a degree, we were planning on dental, and then we didn't get into dental. And like you said, that feels like such a failure at the time.
Yeah.
I pivoted, ended up in dental hygiene, best thing that ever happened to me. I love that you feel the same. But what did life look like when you got that rejection from when you ended up deciding to go to dental hygiene? Like what decisions were made? When did you make that pivot?
So that's a good question. So I had applied to two different schools, didn't get into either. Well, one of them my transcript wasn't even sent to. But it was around that time that I had met my husband, and he is the most supportive human like in the world. And it was that point he said, "Look, right by where we're going to be, there's a dental hygiene school. So why don't you apply to that? And at any point, you can go try again. You have that option to try again, but let's do this first and then sort of see how it goes." And I applied. And funny story, didn't get in originally into hygiene school, which was crazy. I had a cell and molecular biology degree. Mind you, I was a little bit late in my application, so I wonder if that was why or not. But yeah, I didn't get in my first year of hygiene school either. But I did get in my second. But I knew that I wanted to be in dentistry. At one point, it was like, should I be a chiropractor? Should I be this? But nothing felt true. It was only dental. I knew dental was the where I needed.
I know. And knowing you now, I'm like, yes, that's exactly where you were supposed to be, right? You were never supposed to be anywhere different. You do so much
Yeah.
amazing stuff for the profession and within the profession, which is incredible. And I think it's great for our students to hear that not only did you not get into dental school at your first time, but you also did not get into dental hygiene
Yeah.
school, which with a cell and molecular biology degree. But the thing is, I always think timing is everything. Like
Uh-huh.
you mentioned, maybe I applied a little late. Maybe the application cycle was still open, but what could have happened is they had already selected their class. That happens, right? The admissions committees, I mean, I've had the situation where, okay, our application opened, let's say October, and it closed at the end of January. Guess what? The only time that we had to meet as an admissions committee was at the beginning of January. And we had our selections pretty much picked, right? So those things happen. And it's not that you're not a good candidate or that you're not meant to be a dental hygienist. It's just a timing thing. So if possible,
100%.
I always say get those applications in early, but
And there's something to be said for, and this goes for dental school too. They look to see how important it is to you because you will keep applying if it is important. So there's something to be said for continuing to apply because they see that, they notice that, and that's a big thing. They want someone who is going to push to graduate. They don't want someone that's going to give up at the first sign of something being hard. So yeah, they want to see persistence for sure.
That is so true because we also did look at that on the admissions committee. We're
Yeah.
like, this is their second time applying. Look at what they did in the last year. Look at how things
Yeah.
changed or improved. So, yeah, great advice. Love that we chatted about that part of your story. I have a few rapid fire questions. I've kind of gotten
Good.
to where I'm like, I want to make sure I get these questions answered with all of my guests that come on the show. So, where did you go to dental hygiene school? I know it was in Florida, right?
Yeah. Gulf
Yeah.
Coast State College in Panama City, Florida.
Okay. And did you get associates, bachelor's?
Associates, because I had my
Yes.
bachelor's prior.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And do you remember what your GPA was when you applied?
When I applied, I think it was a 3.6.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, yeah. And you had the degree behind your name as well. When I applied, I had a biology degree, a bachelor's in biology, and my GPA was 3.461, right? I had the
Yeah.
C in chemistry, and that is what everyone's crux is. Like on TikTok, they're always like, I got the C in chemistry. I'm like, it's possible. I had a C in chemistry. But I also did have that degree behind my name, which made a difference as well. Like you said, we were both second time girlies. I did not get in on my first try either. So, life happens. We
And
just got
look
to
where
keep,
we are now.
I know, right? At some point, you just laugh in the face of rejection. Do you feel that way?
You have to. You
Yeah.
have to. And then you have to say at this point, is God telling me something? Or is this part of my being persistent and my story?
Yes, yes. That is so true. Yeah. And sometimes it's hard because you don't
It is.
know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of self doubt. I know I felt that way with dental school. I was like, my gosh, maybe this isn't meant for me. Maybe I'm not supposed to do dental. I'm not getting into dental school. Well, it turns out God was telling me something.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
not supposed to be a
Yeah.
dentist, right? Yeah, yeah. I know.
Absolutely.
Life is funny that way. Well, thinking through once you finally got into dental hygiene school,
Yeah.
what do you feel like was the most difficult aspect?
For me, and this sounds funny, but it wasn't really the schooling at all. I loved the schooling portion because it was something that I was passionate about and I wanted to be the best at what I did. So I wanted to take in and learn everything. So I loved that portion. I think for me, it was more the drama and just a lot of feminine energy. We didn't have any males in our class. We didn't have any male teachers. And it was a lot. And it's funny because when I went to college, I was on a full scholarship. And so to get there, I had to be a really competitive person. I mean, seriously competitive. And that's taxing on your life and your mental health. It really can be. And so after I was done my first degree and I was done with like the sports portion, I said, you know what? I'm no longer going to be competitive with anyone but myself. And that gave me a lot of peace. But when I went into school, I can't control how other people are. And so I think that was my struggle is there was just so much competitiveness and not in a happy and let's do it together way. So I think that that was my biggest struggle was really other people and the drama.
Yeah, that's so interesting to hear you say that, especially, coming from, like you said, a competitive mindset. It's really
Mhm.
hard to shift gears. And
Yeah.
I almost wonder if that was a learning lesson, like there's, the universe tries to teach you. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, this is what you said you were going to do. I'm not going to compete anymore. And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And it was
here,
like, really? Really?
let's put you in a situation where you feel like you're competing with everyone. Yeah. Yeah, such an important fact. I think it's really interesting what you said because I feel like when I went into dental hygiene school, I don't remember that competitive aspect. Maybe it was there, but I think I had already had that shift too mentally where I was
Yeah.
like, this is about me and who I become. But I also had that little chip on my shoulder of not getting into dental school. So I was like, I'm going to be the best dental hygienist of all time.
Sure.
I'm like, if there's a doctor of dental hygiene, sign me up. I'm going to get it today. Yeah, yeah, I'm here
100%.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
really good point to make. I mean, and I actually am really glad that you said that because a lot of times when I ask people, what was your most favorite part of dental hygiene school or what got you through it? They say the friendships, the camaraderie, but there can be drama. You know what I mean? That it can happen and it happens. So I think it's good because if people are listening, they're like, I'm not having that experience, right? I don't feel
Yeah.
like I have 10 best friends in dental hygiene school. That's okay too. I think you still want to show up as a professional every day, right? Because you may end up working with these people in the future. But there's something to be said about protecting your energy. And if the people around you aren't serving you, it's okay to protect your energy. What do you think?
Yeah, and yeah, you have to at some point. And you're right, that's okay. And it sucks that not everyone has the best experience, but I think it makes you tough in who you are and just keep moving forward with it, really.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you gonna do? You gotta get
Yeah,
the degree, so
yeah,
gotta yeah, put the blinders on and just
yeah.
keep moving ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned a little bit when you went to, school in Alabama, you were playing soccer, you went on a full ride scholarship, is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So then when you turned around and were paying for hygiene school, did you have a scholarship that time, or did you have to
No,
pay out of pocket?
for every semester.
Yeah. Did you end up taking out loans? Or if you're comfortable answering that question.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Luckily, my husband worked at Lockheed, which was not far from the school, so he was frequently my patient as well. I think he got his teeth cleaned like 6 times in a year and a half.
That's awesome. You gotta have that supportive spouse.
You
If
do,
they're
you
there,
do.
they make a difference, that's for
Yeah.
sure. I know my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, but I made him come in for I needed one more pano. I sucked at X-rays. Honestly, I still
Me
am.
too.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
my
like the
kryptonite.
worst, right? Yes, same.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And the worst part was my errors every week were different. So it wasn't like I had one consistent thing I screwed up on. Just
You're
like
just like, yeah, over the board, just
yeah, yeah.
radiology is not my thing.
Was not good, yeah, and then, once I started not thinking about it as much, it was like, I what I literally say to myself is just point and shoot, don't overthink it,
Yeah,
that's what worked for me, but he
yeah.
had to come in because I was about to have an incomplete or I don't know, maybe they wouldn't have let me continued on if I hadn't have gotten that piano competency, I had to pass it. Thank God, he has, like, the best dentition of all time. I was like, open contact." Oh, I think I, like, still barely passed it, which tells you how bad I was at taking X-rays, but, yeah, so I get that, whoever will come in and be your patient, you'll take it for sure,
Oh,
and
yeah, and no matter how many times.
yeah. I love that. Well, okay, you mentioned the drama was difficult. Yeah,
Mhm.
what did you do to get through that? We think about the most difficult aspect of dental hygiene school. How did you handle it?
Well, I mean, like you said, I put my blinders on and I just sort of I tried to stay in my lane. I think that was the best part, but then also the hardest part too, because I mean, I was the top student. I was the president of SCADA. I was, I had 1B in the entire thing, and it was from radiology. I didn't put on the lead apron, which now it doesn't
No.
matter. I actually get an A for that class now. But yeah, so it was people just wanting to just try to get under my skin at times. And I just had to keep venting to my husband. Thank goodness I had someone to vent to and all of that. And I did have some really good friends in there. It's not to say that I didn't have the couple core girls that I loved. And that helped me get through it too. Just having the couple that could listen to you and just let you vent for a second. And then once you vented, you move on with life. Right.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I share that too. I always say the person who's at the top of the class doesn't have the least of the worries, right?
Mm-mm.
They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. And I can speak from experience because I was that person too.
Yeah.
But I think you and I, because of that shared experience, we had faced rejection. We knew what it felt like to not be successful in something you wanted to achieve. And
Mhm.
for some people like us, that flips a switch. And
Yeah.
it's a good thing because it makes you unstoppable, but it's also fueled sometimes by self-doubts and you push yourself to the edge. I mean, I do that all the time, right? I'm like, just keep going, keep pushing. But the thing is, that can also be very isolating. I know for me, I felt that way, right? I felt
Yeah.
that way because I felt like I was juggling so much and I kind of felt like people thought it was easy, but really I was going through it just as much as they were, you know what I mean? But we also had the shared experience of having a degree before that
Mm.
was a difficult degree path that I don't know if you feel the same way, but I felt like I worked out a lot of the kinks in my undergrad, like how to study, what I did right, what I did wrong, going out every Thursday night and basically sleeping through my Friday 8 a.m. class. Was that good for me? No. So guess what I didn't do in dental hygiene school, right?
100%. Don't drink on a school night. I did it all the time when I was in college, and I remember getting like a C in parasitology. Parasitology was horrible, but it was because I was missing half the time because I wanted to party. I was on my own for the first time, and then you realize, okay, this again is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I have to absorb every single thing in these classes because guess what? What if I miss one thing and I end up hurting a patient down the line because I didn't keep that in my brain and I was hungover or I was tired or I wasn't paying attention. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I feel the weight of what you said, almost like I'm
Yeah.
still sitting in the dental
Yeah.
hygiene classroom because that was my exact same mentality. And again, if you have that mentality, it's great because it pushes you. And I look at people like you and many other people who have said the exact same thing on my podcast. And I'm like, look at what you rise to become when that switch flips. And it doesn't happen for everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're like, I'm just trying to get through dental hygiene school, I don't care if I get all A's or whatever. This is no shame to anybody in your own individual experience, but there will probably come a time in your life where the flip switches and you're like, I'm ready to put the pedal to the metal. And for us, I think that was dental hygiene school where we started experiencing that.
You'll 100% know. And again, like you said, it's not going to happen the same time for everyone. It could be 10 years down the line, but you'll feel it and just keep going until you feel that it should switch. It's going to switch
Yes.
at some point. You just have to keep moving on, whether it's switching up what you do and where you show up and when you show up, but it'll switch.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I think about dental hygiene school, it started to make sense to me. Life started to make sense. Why everything that had happened before, why I ended up here, and then what would come after. It felt like the dominoes were falling into place. Some people don't get that immediate sensation when they get into dental hygiene school, but I've interviewed enough people to know, like you said, at some point a domino falls, you get interested in one thing and the next thing you're on this like totally different trajectory that I never thought I'm going to own my own business and have a podcast.
It's so funny.
I
It's so
never
funny
thought.
that you say that because literally for me to start New Wave Perio, I had to go through every job and every single thing had to go exactly as planned for me to number one, have this idea. And for number two, for me to be successful at it. I had to go through learning independence, accepting feedback, learning to say yes to every opportunity, then to understanding how production worked because I didn't know at the beginning, learning how to communicate to patients, and then finally, like networking, running study clubs. This all happened in the exact steps it needed to for me to get here. And if one step didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So you just have to have confidence and know that, like, in every position you're at, you're learning something vital
Yes.
that is going to
Yes.
help you down the road.
Yes, I just want to like standing ovation because it's so
Yeah.
true. I think about that all the time, and that's part of self-reflection, looking back on your life and thinking
Mhm.
through what did I learn from that experience?
Yeah.
When I worked clinically, what did I learn? I learned that I love patient care. I love education. I like the hands on aspect. But for me, I didn't love certain aspects. And so I started shifting into more of what do I love? Okay, I love education. So let me shift more into education. And then it was like, I really want to be able to create things. And so it's like, I slowly pivoted, but it was not through just ease. Like where we
Yeah.
are now did not happen overnight.
Yeah.
It's been 11 years for me. I don't know. How long has it been for you working?
It's about 14
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So I want to know a little bit after you graduated, what
Yeah.
did that career, I guess, transition look like? Like, you graduate, you do this, and now you're at New Wave Perio. What were the in betweens like?
So it's funny because when I graduated, I had this newborn baby, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it
Oh
wasn't
my gosh.
yeah, I had this newborn baby and I'm like, "All right, Hygiene, you're gonna take a break for a second. I'm gonna look after this little human that I need to keep alive." And, it was probably about 6 months in and I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to, temp here and there." And it's so funny. I remember temping my first time and coming from school to the real world, I almost didn't even know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I had to look at the hygienist that was next door and be like, "Okay, in what order are you polishing?" Like, it was that and I knew what I was doing in school, but you're just so focused on, "Okay, this is how it needs to be done, blah, blah, blah," that when you have this autonomy a little bit, you're confused, you don't know. So it took me a second to figure that out, but and then we were in Florida and then we moved to Virginia. So then I temped there, which was a little bit different. And then we were there for 2 years, and then we came to Texas, and that's when I had my first legit, like, part-time job. I was 3 days a week, and do remember, gosh, the dentist, she was amazing. I loved her so much, but she was, like, frustrated at me at first, and I think she felt like I was, like, going too fast or this or that, and so I remember her pulling me aside, and this was the first time I had gotten constructive criticism ever, like, in the dental hygiene world. And I just remember your whole body, you're feeling hot, like your face gets hot, you feel like you're gonna throw up. It's like the worst feeling ever. And I just sat and I took it like I was being berated by like my dad. And I remember taking that criticism and just going with it. And I was like, you know what? I'm either going to take this and be better, or I'm going to sit here and cry and quit. I'd rather just be better. Cause guess what? In the future, if she's going to be mean or berate me more or whatever, even though it wasn't as bad as I say it was, it's just how I felt at the
Yeah.
time. So yeah, that was the first time I got constructive criticism, and I did. I stayed there like 2.5 more years. I ended up learning to do so much there. We ended up becoming like really good friends, and guess what? She appreciated and respected that I took that and rolled with it and listened to everything she said and didn't make a fuss and sort of fell in line a bit, you know what I mean? And there's something to be said for that, and yeah, and so that was a great start, and then like I said, I had a couple jobs since then until I landed in Perio, and that's where I sorta ended.
Yeah, I know. I love it. So tell us about New Wave Perio. I want to preface it by saying what you're doing is incredible and what you're sharing and giving back to the dental hygiene community is incredible. I think it's particularly incredible because we live in Texas, a very restricted state in terms of scope for dental hygienists, but you own your own business as a practicing dental hygienist. So I
Yeah.
want you to lay that out for how this model came to be.
Yes, okay. So when I was in Perio, I learned how to use the periodontal endoscope. That's a whole 'nother long story, so we'll just start at I know how to use the periodontal endoscope at this
And
point.
and what is an endoscope for our listeners?
Yeah. So it is a little tiny fiber optic camera, sort of like this little guy here. So you got this little camera, even smaller than this, size of a couple hairs, and you put it underneath the gums. So you're going into that periodontal pocket, and I'm seeing this pocket at 100 times magnification on this big screen. Okay. And so what I'm doing while I'm in that pocket, I'm assessing the root structure. I'm going all the way down to the base. A lot of times I'm seeing the bone because the tissue is so infected. And I'm able to completely clean the root of that tooth. I'm able to see if there's decay. I'm able to see if there's any anatomical challenges there, go into furcations. And this allows the body to truly heal because we are actually removing all of the calculus and bacteria on that root surface. So that's what an endoscope is. So I learned how to use this and I got, gosh, they bombarded me with patients. It was really hard at first. You're using both hands, you're using both feet. It's a lot on you at first, but I knew that I needed something more, and this was it. And so I grew to love it. And then one day I had a couple things go on in my personal life. My grandmother had passed, going through some times at work, and I just thought to myself, why couldn't I do this for general offices, perio offices, people who aren't willing to invest in the technology or the training for their staff, but also allow my patients to have a much discounted procedure that they can more likely afford, but they're getting the same results because guess what? I was the same one doing it at the perio office when they were charging almost double, right? So now I get to, well, let's backtrack a little bit. I went ahead and I said, you know what? I'm going to purchase a $40,000 piece of equipment that was more expensive than my car. And luckily, again, my supportive husband, like, "You go, Mel. We won't lose our whole life over this amount of money." Is it a lot of money? Absolutely. That's a lot of money. But like, we'll be okay, even if it fails, which it won't. But and so I did. I went ahead and I jumped 2 feet first and I bought this equipment. I bought a piezo, and luckily I had all these networking opportunities prior with these study clubs, so I knew a lot of people, and that helped me a lot too. And it's funny because I marketed so much on my own, and I probably went to hundreds of offices with little buntinis and, spent all this money, and guess what? It was my organic, natural relationships that I already made that made me successful. It wasn't any of that stuff. So, but yeah, so now I just travel from office to office. I do training for offices. I do all kinds of things with the company, but it's really cool to have autonomy in a place that wasn't designed for it, you know? And I'm getting to
Yes.
live almost my dental dream that I wanted, but on steroids. Like this is better.
Yeah.
It's better than owning an office that's 8 to 5, right? I get to pick my schedule.
Yeah. And I think many, not all, but I know enough hygienists who are entrepreneurs or who have created a different vision for themselves outside of what we may consider the traditional norm. I think that we have a lot of those skills that push us in that direction. I think hygienists, whether we realize we want to be hygienists or not at first, right? We
Yeah.
I think we just like to be in control. We, just think about in an op, you're by yourself all the time, anyways, as a dental hygienist. Like, if you're lucky, you have an assistant, but usually you're running the show, right? And I loved that. That was my favorite part. I'm like, I like that I'm in control in this setting. How do I get more control, or how do I do more of what I love out of this degree that I've gotten? And that's really where I pivoted forward. And I know you've done the same thing. I think what made me so excited and why I was like, you have to come on the podcast is because with traditional scaling and root planing for periodontal therapy, right? We do not see the results that we see with the endoscope. And we are teaching people, in hygiene school, textbooks essentially say, like, you cannot regrow bone and gum, but that is not your experience.
Surprise.
Yeah.
It's possible. So it's crazy because a lot of what I do, it's not just the endoscope. Like I am diving heavy into oral systemic connection. I'm talking a lot about their health, making sure they have blood work. We go over medical history for at least 30 minutes because that patient, even if I get everything off of that root, they still may not heal the way I want them to because their body's not allowing it. Their body is fighting something. It's their host response. So we dive a lot into that, not just, make sure you brush, make sure you water pick, all of that, which is so important. Their host response, though, is one of the most important things. So we dive really heavy into that. But I will say it's fascinating how much we miss past 5 millimeters. So once you get into that 6 millimeter range, we're talking changes in anatomy. We've got furcations, we've got developmental grooves, radicular grooves. And at that point, we're limited. Oh, we're limited by this blind SRP, and we can have the best tactile sensation ever. But when that calculus is sort of crushed into that furcation or that groove, it feels smooth, but there's actually a line of that bacteria there. So that's why that, mesial pocket of number 5 is not healing.
I know. And when you said that, it's like it makes such sense.
Yeah.
But, in your head, you're like, well, I did everything I was supposed to do, but you just can't see it. So you don't
Yeah.
really know. You're like, I took the x ray, the calculus is
Looks
gone.
great. Yeah.
And then you're like, but then I put the scope in there. And next thing you know, you're like, oh, it makes sense why it's not healing. And I think that that really was almost a shift in paradigm for me, because now I'm thinking, wow, I think I'm doing such a good job, but we really could be doing a better job. And so there's a lot of growth. There's been a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of this stuff, even just over the past 10 years, I don't even know when endoscopes came about, but I know I was not learning about them.
1990s.
That
Yeah,
is
it's been
crazy.
around forever, but no one knows.
No one knows about it. I did
No one
not hear
knows.
about an endoscope in probably 2 years ago, maybe three, maybe four. I don't know. But when I was practicing clinically, it was like no one was talking about endoscopes. And I think that's the beauty about social media, which I'm going to plug, make sure everyone goes and follows you. Is it at New Wave Perio?
Yep, and then at DFW Perio Queen, that's the one that's gonna have the fun videos.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say, because that's what you need to go see. Watch the
Yeah.
videos. It's just incredible. And
No, it's fascinating, and just the fact that once you remove everything and the body is in sort of symbiosis, it naturally wants to heal itself. That's what it wants to do.
yes. Oh gosh, that's just so crazy. I mean, I know and my listeners know, because I've been talking about it a lot lately. I'm on this healing journey, and it feels very hopeful to tell someone something like that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if we can get rid of this, or if we can take care of that, like, your body wants to heal itself. And it's like, that's incredible. We are so fragile, but at the same time, we're so resilient. And to be able to give something like that back to a patient it's just outstanding. So I'm so proud of you. I love everything you're doing. And I love that you're out there sharing and trying to get more people to do this. And I mean, the thing is, you're doing this. I know some other people who are doing similar things, are working with the endoscopes. And if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, that feels great to me. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to work clinical, because I think a lot of times people hear, I want to get out of the op. If I got to do something more, I need to be at this, or I need to do that. And it's like, you can still work in the op and be doing so much more than you even realize at this point, right? You just need support and, truthfully, a little bit of gumption and some networking, right?
Yeah, and you know what? One of my best pieces of advice is to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because the
Yes.
moment you are gonna grow leaps and bounds, and that's when you're gonna be able to say yes to the things you never thought you'd be able to say yes to.
Yes. And I see that in you. I think you're a person who keeps one toe over the line, right? At
Yes.
all times. Like,
Oh,
and it's scary. I mean, but that's how you keep moving forward, right? Like
I'm just used to being scared all the time.
same. Yeah, yeah, same. It gets to be a lot sometimes, but then you're just like, what am I doing all this for? You know, it's like you have the vision, and if you're not going to commit to yourself and your vision, I mean, no one else is going to, right? So why not pay the
Yeah.
$40,000? Go for
Yeah.
it.
And you know what? Guess what? If you fail, it's a growing point. You know what I
Yes.
mean? But you won't fail if you keep pushing yourself. You won't.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you hear stories of people who have like grown these huge companies, lost it all. What do? They go do it again because,
Mhm.
and they do it faster the second
Mhm.
time. And
Yep.
it's like, because everything that you've learned along the way, you never lose, right? It's
100%.
still there in your back pocket. So,
Yeah.
Melanie, I'm feeling fired up. I'm like, what am I going to go do today? I love it. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being here, sharing your story. I know we plugged your socials. Anything else you want to share where students can find you, final tips, anything else like that?
Just really my social page. My webpage is www.newwaveperio.com. I'm here for any questions at all. And I love what I do and I want everyone else to love what they do, whether it's this or something else. So I'm here.
I love it. And then I think right before this episode or right after this episode comes out will be RDH Under One Roof. I know you mentioned you're going to be there and you're speaking. Is that
I
correct?
am speaking. I'm speaking on sort of this whole model that I have built and the autonomy. So yeah, it's pretty much on New Wave Perio and why I did what I did and how to do it yourself.
Yes, amazing. Yeah. So if you are, thinking about going to RDH Under One Roof, highly recommend. If you are graduating and maybe you're like, oh, but I just graduated, maybe I shouldn't go this year. Just go and say hi to Melanie and learn all about her amazing model. So awesome. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you guys. It was awesome. Thank you so much, Dana.